This week on Syracuse Sidelines with John Desko, the Orange head to New Jersey to take on Rutgers. We'll talk about the Scarlet Knights offense in this week's Scouting Report. Plus,
ball down the alley, here's Trimboli. Somehow it snuck in past a lunging road. Trimboli has put the Orange up 10-5 at Kluckner.
sophomore Jamie Trimboli is stepping up and showing he can be a big-time offensive threat. We'll take a look at the sophomore's game in our Desko breakdown. And the popularity of lacrosse is on the rise across the country. The recruiting map bigger than ever as kids all over the USA picking up sticks. It's all coming at you right now on Syracuse Sidelines. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Syracuse Sidelines here on Spectrum News. I'm Eric Columbia, filling in for Mark Larson, and I'm here with the man who calls the action for Syracuse lacrosse, Brian Higgins. And Brian, the average fan might not know this, but the 16th best team in the country in New Jersey, but it's Rutgers.
Not Princeton.
Yes.
We're used to Princeton. They've won all the national titles. Rutgers, though, really getting back into it the last couple of years. Eric, they were the second to last team out of the tournament last year. This is a pretty good program right now.
Another tough roadie, but a tough home contest this past weekend, losing to Johns Hopkins. So SU need to repair some things, that record and their psyche.
Yeah, not just the loss. It's a loss by 11 to your rival. You still got a winning record at 3-2, but you got two big losses to Albany and Hopkins. Need to get back on the winning track this week.
With that said, let's take a look at that tough loss inside the Carrier Dome this past weekend. The Orange coming off a big win over Virginia the week before and back inside the friendly confines of the Carrier Dome. The Blue Jays scoring the first 3 goals of the contest, but SU answered. Watch this hit by Luke Schwasnick, sending the Orange on a break, and freshman Brendan Curry finishes it off on the other end to make it 3-1. Second quarter now, Jamie Trimboli muscles his way to the cage, and we have a 1-goal game, but that's as close as this one would get. Hopkins rattled off 4 straight to finish the frame. Cole Williams with the bullet right there. The Blue Jays up 7-2 at the break, and they pulled away in the second half. Williams again, this time with the jump shot, his 4th of the afternoon, as the Blue Jays go on to win 18-7. The Orange drop to 3-2. Time to catch up now with head coach John Desko. He's in the office with Brian.
Well, it was a tough loss to Johns Hopkins last week, and Coach, let's start there. Close game late in the first half. Where did this one get away from you guys?
Well, really, I watched the film on Sunday after the game, and the last 2 minutes of the second quarter was amazing. I think the score was 4-2, and then they scored 3 or 4 goals in that span of 2 minutes, and they actually had another shot at the end with just seconds to go. So a little bit baffling what happened. I know they won face-offs after the goals, and then for them to get those goals so easily at the end of the second quarter, we could have gone in halftime down by a couple goals. Instead, we're down by 5 or 6 goals, and that was disheartening. Injuries
are not an excuse, but often a reason. And your defense has a lot of talented guys, but unfortunately in and out of the lineup this year. Did you see that affecting communication, or are those important aspects of things? Well,
to have Bomberry out, Hutchings out, and then Fernandez has been doing such a nice job in the wing for the face-offs for us, and I think it showed a little bit in the statistics on the face-off in the game. Their guy did a very nice job of getting the ball out, and their wings did a terrific job because Danny actually got in the ball a bunch, and just on the exits we lost the ball there. So that was disheartening also, and to have those guys out defensively didn't help anything. I don't think it was the reason totally for the loss, but it had something to do with the score.
When you look at a game like that, it's a rivalry game. Where were the emotions like during the game, and how has the team tried to turn the page here as you get ready for Rutgers? Yeah,
we talked about that. We were a little concerned in the week with having the championship teams back and the throwback uniforms and just all the emotion of the day. And I think it's taken, with some of our younger guys especially, a little while to calm down. And we've got to go out a little bit more relaxed. I mean, you want to see the intensity, but you want to play smart lacrosse.
You mentioned younger guys. You are overloaded on younger guys this year, I think, compared to previous years. How have you noticed them sort of finding their way? Because every week, it's a rivalry game. It's a big game on your schedule.
Yeah, well, we didn't have that many possessions in this game. And we had a couple of the younger guys going to the goal a little bit too quick. If nothing else, we want to get the ball to the offensive end of the field, let everybody touch it, let everybody get comfortable at the end of the field. And then when you've been playing so much defense, you want to rest your defense some. So a little bit too quick to go to the goal at times. And some of our shot selection, which we've been working on all spring, wasn't the best at times.
And it looked like not having Nate Solomon out there did have an effect on the offense for you.
It did. You know, Nate gives us another dodger at the attack end of the field. Some of the other guys are a little bit more off ball. Hopkins was able to bring up a long stick defender to cover one of the other midfielders, so they had two poles up top, and they could cover one of the attackmen with a short stick. So that was a pretty big loss at the offensive end. Again, it didn't determine the day, but it had something to do with the score.
Yeah, and again, that's suspension, not injury, so he'll be back in the lineup for you this week. And looking at Rutgers here, getting into the specifics as we move on throughout the show, we know Jules Henenberg's a great player, but how about the job Brian Breck's doing down there? This was a team that was going nowhere for a while, and the last couple of years they've been right in the mix, on the edge of the playoffs last year, and in the mix to get there again this season.
Well, he's done a terrific job, and I always kind of wondered with Rutgers, New Jersey state school tuition for the people in New Jersey, the student athletes there, and New Jersey is loaded with good lacrosse players, and I think they're starting to take advantage of that, getting some kids from out of town too, obviously, and he's doing a terrific job with them.
All right, Coach, more with Sunday's matchup with Rutgers as we move along. Right now, let's send it back to Eric.
Thanks, guys. So how tough is the upcoming schedule for the Orange? Well, Saturday's contest against number 16 Rutgers begins a 3-game stretch against ranked squads, which includes number 3 Duke and number 4 Notre Dame. Coming up on Syracuse Sidelines, he's 6'2", 185 pounds, and a scoring machine for Rutgers. We'll talk about Jules Henenberg in this week's Scouting Report coming up next.
Syracuse Sidelines on Spectrum News is brought to you in part by Toyota. Let's go places.
Rutgers attackman Jules Henenberg is big, athletic, and he knows how to tickle the twine. The senior leading the Scarlet Knights in goals and assists this season and has twice as many total points as the next best player on Rutgers. He's in his second season as captain and was a first-team All-Big Ten performer last year. So needless to say, the Orange are going to want to know where Henenberg is at all times on the field. Let's talk more about that right now in this week's Scouting Report.
Well, Jules Henenberg is one of the unsung guys of the country, Coach. There's a lot of guys like this that we don't really know, but Jules Henenberg's had a great career now as senior.
He has, and if you look at his points, he's almost equal in his goals and assists. A very good finisher, he sees the field really well. Kind of their quarterback, a lot goes through him. He makes good decisions for this team, and he keeps everybody involved with his ability to find people open.
Well, I'm glad you said all of those things because we're about to watch him here do some of everything. Let's get into his highlights because he has scored, he has assisted, he can cut, and we've really seen him do it all so far. Now as a senior and the guy kind of in control of this offense. Yeah,
really smart player, good all around as you just mentioned. There you see him, got it in his left hand. He's primarily a left-handed player, but you'll see him score with his right hand. He hides behind the defender, one defender leaves, and they're looking for him all the time because they know he's going to finish it. A nice right-handed shot for a left-handed player.
Got himself wide open there right in front of the crease and does not miss a lot in those ranges, but it's not all he can do for this team.
Yeah, exactly. Here you see him behind the goal setting a pick. Throw it back behind, and you're going to see him dodge left-handed and come around and finish. So we saw him finish without the ball. Now you're seeing him dodge and scoring with the ball. He scored before right-handed. You see that one? It's a left-handed dodge. Here you see him. He's getting double teamed. Gets away from the double team, and it doesn't take him long to get right to the goal. And there you see another right-hand finish. Looks like it hits the pipe, but it hits the bottom of the goal, inside the goal, so it counts. Just a nice placed shot. Again, primarily lefty player, but you saw 2 of his 3 goals right there right-handed.
Yeah, he can score it, but Coach, he can also pass the ball here a little bit.
Yeah. Here's, we've seen him with the ball, without the ball. Now you see him finding the open man. And Mazzone, who I think we're going to talk about next, just scored right-handed.
He's able to get in the crease, and that's something you guys had trouble with last week against Hopkins, so certainly we'll have your eyes on this week.
Good point, Brian. Yeah, we had some problems on the inside. We can't let that happen again. It's a great point.
When you look at this Rutgers attack, what really stands out? Because this is a group last year and this year, they've been putting some points up.
Well, the three of them are all very good, 4, 6, and 7. 4 was Big Ten Rookie of the Year last year, kind of a left-handed player, very good dodger. They'll invert with him if they can get a switch on that. Also invert with Hennenberg if he can switch him to a short stick. And the other guy's a freshman, number 6, pretty much more of an off-ball player. Some teams have short sticked him. That could be one of our options this week. But they use him because he's primarily a right-handed finisher.
When you look at your defense, how do you feel set up to guard this group this week?
I think it's okay. You know, Hennenberg, because of his versatility and doing everything, dodging, feeding, moving without the ball, he's pretty good. And then number 4, Mullins, probably will be with Mellon because of the quickness. So we may have a little bit of a matchup problem, but we'll see. We just got to get our guys to understand who they are, how they like to play, their characteristics, and be ready going into the game on Sunday. How
big is to have this game back on the schedule? Because they were not here after you left the Big East, sort of got good here in the last couple of years. Now this is a good strength of the schedule game for you.
It sure is, a good RPI game. It's definitely not a day off. We're going down to their place. I think they started the league off number 6 in the country, had a loss and then had some wins coming back. Lost a tight one to Princeton. I think they should have won that game. They had the lead by 2 or 3 going down the stretch, but Princeton never quit, came back and got one at the end to win the game. But this is a good lacrosse team. We've got to be ready for them.
All right, a good look at a talented Rutgers team as we now send it back to Eric.
Guys, thanks. One more note on Hennenberg. He started every single game since arriving at Rutgers as a freshman 4 years ago. Up next, Syracuse has a budding star of its own making some noise early in the season. We'll talk about Jamie Trimboli's game in this week's Desco Breakdown as Syracuse Sidelines rolls on.
The Scouting Report is presented by Nissan, proud supporter of college athletics. Shop ChooseNissan.com. Take on today.
Trimboli, weaving, shooting, and a much-needed goal for Jamie Trimboli in the opening minute of the third.
Trimboli winds up and buries another from 15 yards out.
Trimboli a right alley run, step on cute, shoots, and rips it home. A fist bump for Jamie Trimboli, and the Orange back within 1. The breaks, rolls right to the middle, look away pass out top. Through traffic Trimboli.
There's one.
Rips it home to the left. The youngsters, freshman to sophomore, it's 15-6.
Could Jamie Trimboli be SU's next big offensive star? If you look at the first 5 games of this season, the answer is yes. The sophomore midfielder had his first career hat trick last Saturday against Johns Hopkins, and he leads the Orange in goals this season with 9. So let's take a look at how Trimboli's game is developing this season. Here's Brian and Coach in this week's Desco Breakdown.
Well, we're going to talk coming up in a little bit about the explosion of recruiting around the country here, but Coach, you can still get some guys from here in New York. You went out to Rochester and found Jamie Trimboli at Victor. What kind of player was he in high school?
Very versatile. He very good athlete. He can go down the alley left-handed, go down the alley right-handed. We obviously use him on man-up because of his outside shot. And I think just the ability to shoot with either hand makes somebody more dangerous. If they can just go to their right or if they can just go to their left, it makes it easier for a defense to play them. And a lot of defenses, when they call it hands, they'll play somebody's hand. So if the guy's right-handed, they'll try to take away his right hand, make him go to his left, knowing that the percentages of him scoring or passing the ball are less with his offhand than they are with his strong hand.
Well, Coach, you've led us right into this breakdown of Jamie here because we're going to see the right hand, we're going to see the left hand. He's done it all for you here this season as we get into Jamie's highlights here because he can score kind of from everywhere on the field for you right now.
He can, and he's really worked on his shooting as of late. I think a couple shots, especially early in the year, were kind of in the goalie's stick. And he's working on changing the plane. There you see a right-handed goalie, he goes to his left side, a right-handed shot from the outside. I think Binghamton was playing a zone. They got 2 players on the one ball, left him for a second, and he takes advantage of it.
How much is it on these young players? You mentioned it, not just to rely on that high heat they had that works in high school.
Yeah, well, there's no secret, especially in film. Coaches watch this, and we watch the Virginia goalie here, see how wide his feet are. And we told our guys he could shoot in the 5-hole, which means between the legs. And you see Jamie make a nice quick move and sticks it in the 5-hole left-handed. So the last goal was right-handed, this goal is left-handed.
I know Jamie prefers the right, but his left is pretty good for a guy that prefers the right.
Yeah, sometimes guys shoot better with their offhand because they're very fundamentally strong, and they try to place the ball, and they don't try to do anything they can't do with their offhand. Here you see Jamie coming down the right alley. The defender has a stick behind him a little bit. He tries to get the stick in front, but Jamie shoots first, and with his defender's stick behind him, he's able to get that shot off.
It looked like he knew he was going to get that shot the whole way.
Well, he was predetermined he was going to shoot that ball. Here's another move. I think he goes to his right, then he splits back to his left. Again, the defender is left-handed. He's going to have the stick behind him, doesn't get the stick in front in time, and Jamie's able to place the ball more to the right side of the goal. The goalie's left because the goalie's right-handed, so it's harder for him to make that save on that side.
Yeah, we've seen 2 goals with the right hand and 2 goals with the left hand, which shows his versatility.
Yeah, exactly. And again, he'd been working very hard. He had some success early in the year shooting. Again, he put it in the goalie's stick a couple times in the second game of the year, the Albany game, and once or twice against Virginia. And there you see him changing it up, changing the plan. He's working on that, and he's getting better at it.
First career hat trick came against Hopkins. How different is his role this year? He worked his way into the starting lineup last year, but it was next to 2 first-team All-Americans in Sergio Salcido and Nick Mariani.
Yeah, well, we put him out there after a few games, and I just decided that he had that ability. And with the seniors beside him, a 5th-year guy and a 4-year guy, it was a good time to insert him because we knew he was going to have to be our strength coming back this year. And he's getting it done for us. He's getting better. And a lot of pressure on him, only being a sophomore. We're running another sophomore with him, Dirth, and obviously Dordovic, a freshman. So we're asking a lot of these young guys, and we just need to play smarter going ahead in these future games.
All right, Coach, a good breakdown of the young Jamie Trimboli as we send it back to Eric.
Thanks, Brian. Trimboli, he does know a thing or two about winning programs. He was a top player for 2 state championship squads for Victor High School just outside of Rochester. A great recruit for John Desko. And coming up, we're going to talk about recruiting in college lacrosse and how the game is changing across the entire country. That's next on Syracuse Sidelines. When you take a look at this map, you see how much recruiting has changed in college lacrosse. It used to be the vast majority of players came from East Coast states like Maryland, New York, and New Jersey. But the game is becoming more popular across the country, and that means more players to recruit. SU still gets most of its players from the big 3 states we mentioned, but they now have players from California, Oregon, Texas, Georgia, and Florida. So how different is the college game compared to, say, 20 years ago? Let's talk about that now with Coach Desko. He's with Brian in the office.
Well, that's quite a map around the country, seeing where all this young talent is coming from right now. And Coach, we've seen these states: Oregon, California, Texas, Georgia, Illinois, Ohio. We looked at this map 20 years ago, we wouldn't be talking about any of those places.
Oh, no, you're right. 20 years ago, it was Long Island, Baltimore, and Central New York. And now it's everywhere. I used to look at the rosters of other teams, the recruiting classes, and if some school was bringing in, 12, 13, 14 players, I knew all of them because we all recruited the same players. Today, if I know 3 or 4 of somebody's class coming in, I'd be lucky just because of where everybody's coming from. You can't see everyone. We're allowed 3 coaches on the road. With all those states and all these tournaments in the summertime, you just can't follow everything. So you're relying on some of the kids coming to lacrosse camp, getting lucky when you go to these team tournaments and seeing someone play. Your contacts out there, whether it be high school coaches or club coaches, talking to them about their up-and-coming players. And it's everywhere.
How important is your alumni base in alerting you to these players? You know, Ryan Powell kind of turned you guys on to Tucker Dordevic, and that's certainly not the only story like that.
No, that's a great example. That's how we found out about Tucker. We wouldn't have known about him otherwise unless he had come to a prospect day or camp. So good grab, and it's also having reliability in some of the people that you're talking to, and then you've got to get some film, and then you try to get out and watch them play or bring them into camp or prospect day and see what they can do against other good players.
That was what, give or take 20 years ago, you guys got Spencer Wright out of California. That was novel then. Now everyone's doing it.
Oh, sure. Even guys like Stephen Brooks coming from way out there, it's different. And the only way we found out about Stephen Brooks was he was at Bridgeton Academy. He played soccer in the fall, lacrosse in the spring, so the coach there didn't even know too much about him as a lacrosse player, and gave me a call at the end of the spring saying, I've got this guy, Stephen Brooks, who's really come on. I think you should take a look at him. Brought him in almost mid to late summer and decided to come to Syracuse. He turns out to be a first-team All-American.
Yeah, go figure. Starters on offense right now. You got Dordevic, who's from Oregon, Nate Solomon, who's from Georgia. That never would have been the case. How much has it changed the game? Because the D1 game has grown some. There are more teams now than there used to be. But high school and club has exploded way more than that.
Oh, most definitely. And, you know, these kids are playing at a younger age. The game's on television all the time, so they can see how colleges play, the styles, what individual players do. And the younger guys learn from that, and they emulate what the older guys are doing, and they get better as a result. But it's everywhere, and as a result, you're seeing the parity in the game. I mean, how many years did you see teams being undefeated or only 1 or 2 losses? And now everybody seems to have a few losses going into the playoffs, and it just speaks for the parity of the game.
All right, Coach, this weekend, you and Rutgers back to kind of the Big East days here when you played them every year. What are you expecting in this matchup?
Well, they're a very good lacrosse team from top to bottom. I think that what we would like to do is if we can get some face-offs against these guys, try to get comfortable at the offensive end of the game, early in the game, and then rely on our defense to get stops, because they run 2 midfields, got a very good attack. This is a good lacrosse team, play good team defense. That's a good lacrosse team, and they're at home, and we're on the road.
Well, you're on the road this Sunday. Coach, good luck to you.
Thank you.
That's Coach Desko. Right now, let's send it back to Eric.
Thanks, guys. Game time Sunday in Jersey set for 1 p.m. You can catch it over on the Big Ten Plus network. That's going to do it for this edition of Syracuse Sidelines. For Brian Higgins and Coach Desko, I'm Eric Columbia saying thanks for watching, and we'll see you again next week, 7 p.m. Thursday night, right here on Spectrum News.
Ball out top, penalty release. Frazier, a blast, got blocked on the way to Madonna.
What a save.
On a collision at midfield as Swaznik just wiped out Vallis, and here comes transition with Ford. Draws a man, dishes left. Bomberry, one more, and pounded home by Brendan Curry. Finds Lipka running with the top unit now down the left alley. Lipka to the middle, shoots, and scores. Lipka ran through a penalty as a flag flies.